My wife's manipulative parents forced her into a joint business with her ex, so I confronted her, and she had to choose, me or them. I'm 36, married with a kid. I thought I had it all figured out. I'd built a good life, a life I was proud of, with a wife I loved and a family that was my everything. But I never expected things to come crashing down the way they did. My wife and I, we were solid, or so I thought. Then, her parents started pushing themselves into our lives in ways I could never have imagined. They managed to tear open cracks I hadn't even realized were there. And by the time I understood what was happening, I wasn't sure I could fix it. Her parents always had this way of looking down on us, like we were beneath them somehow, and like they were gracing us with their wisdom by simply showing up. They'd make it clear they had higher expectations for her, hinting that she could do better, have more, if only she weren't holding herself back. They'd say things like, "You're so talented, don't waste it," or "If only you'd kept the business going." And by that, they meant the boutique she used to run with her ex-M. They had a hand in financing it back then, and when things ended between her and M, she left both him and the business behind. At first it didn't bother me. Sure, they'd bring it up here and there, but my wife would brush them off. She had moved on. We both had. But over the years it started feeling like her parents were holding on to that part of her past in a way that was unsettling. They'd talk about the glory days of that business, how proud they'd been, and then they'd start name-dropping M, as if they wanted to remind her of what she gave up. And they never let it go. I knew they admired him, but admiration turned into something else. It was almost as if they wanted her to look M and see some kind of missed opportunity. Every time we'd see them, they'd find some way to slip his name into the conversation, talking about how successful he was, how respected in their community, and that maybe she should reach out just to say hello. One night, after another family dinner filled with hints about her potential, I told her I was done with it. I told her to shut it down, to make it clear to them that they needed to stop trying to reconnect her with her ex. She said I was overreacting, that it was just them trying to look out for her. But to me, it was becoming a problem, one that was slowly driving a wedge between us. She asked me to let it go, and I agreed because honestly, I trusted her. A few weeks later, she dropped a bombshell. Her parents had reached out to M themselves, inviting him over for a business meeting. They had pitched him a proposal, essentially asking him to restart the old business, but this time with my wife joining him. They'd planned it out, down to the investors they'd already lined up. They just assumed she'd be on board once they presented her with their brilliant idea. And they told her it would be, for the family, a way to build a legacy. When she told me, I felt my chest tighten. This wasn't a suggestion anymore. This was a plan they'd made behind our backs. And the way she was talking, I could tell she was considering it. That was the part that threw me. I mean, I thought we were a team, but her parents had managed to get in her head, make her question what we'd built together. "Why are you even thinking about this?" I asked her, probably harsher than I meant to. She looked at me like I was the one being unreasonable. "They just want what's best for me," she said, her voice uncertain, like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. "They think I could do more, you know? They want me to live up to my potential." "Your potential?" I could barely keep my voice steady. "Are they talking about your potential or their expectations? Because it sounds a lot like they want you to do what they want, not what you want." She got defensive. "They're my parents. They helped me get where I am. They've sacrificed so much for me." "And what about us?" I shot back. "What about what we've built, what we've sacrificed? Or does that not matter because it doesn't fit into their picture-perfect vision?" She looked away, and I could tell she was torn. But instead of reassuring me, she kept playing their side. Maybe they're right. Maybe I've been holding myself back. That hit me hard. Suddenly it felt like it wasn't just her parents against me. It was her, too. I didn't know how to respond, so I just walked away, leaving her standing there with this conflicted look on her face. The next few days were tense. She'd go to her parents' house, come back quiet, like she'd just been to some kind of intervention. Her parents were relentless. They played every card they had, telling her she owed it to them, that they'd always known she was meant for something bigger. They even brought up our son, saying he needed a role model who set high standards. It was getting worse. I could feel her slipping, slowly being pulled away from me and our life. And then, one night, she came home and told me she'd agreed to meet with them. She said it like it was no big deal, just a quick chat, nothing serious. But to me it was serious. She'd agreed to meet with her ex, who her parents idolized, and she hadn't even told me until afterward. I told her flat out that I wasn't okay with it, that I felt like I was losing her to them, that they were manipulating her. She looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. "Why can't you just support me?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Why can't you trust me?" "I do trust you," I replied. "But I don't trust them. They're trying to turn you against me, against our family." She didn't want to hear it. She said I was being paranoid, that her parents only wanted what was best for her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I could feel the foundation of our relationship cracking beneath us, and it terrified me. Her parents sensed the tension and only ramped up their efforts. They started calling me directly, trying to talk sense into me. Her mother, in particular, was ruthless. She told me I was insecure, that I was holding her back. Her father? He went even further, suggesting I was jealous of M, that I couldn't handle her being around someone more successful. They kept pushing, saying things like, "You don't want her to be her best self, and real men know when to step aside." And then her mother orchestrated the ultimate ambush. She set up a family dinner and invited M without telling us. We showed up, and there he was, sitting at the table with that smug, happy-to-help look on his face. Her parents acted surprised, like they had forgotten to mention it. But it was also calculated. I stood up, ready to leave, but my wife grabbed my arm, asking me to stay. She whispered that this was her chance to clear things up. I watched her sit down across from him, and the whole time, her parents played up this fantasy, going on about how they'd love to see the two of them working together again. They talked about all the possibilities, how natural it would be for them to reunite. They didn't even try to hide it anymore. They were practically begging her to ditch me for him. I couldn't hold back any longer. I stood up and told them, loud and clear, that I was done. I told my wife that she had to make a choice, us or them. She looked at me with this haunted expression, torn between two worlds. Her parents started shouting, calling me selfish, saying I was poisoning her. Her father even had the nerve to say, "Do you really think she'll choose you over her family?" The room fell silent, and in that moment I could see the truth on her face. She looked at her parents, then at me, and then she did something I'll never forget. She told them she was done with them, that they'd crossed a line. She said she was choosing her real family, me and our child, and she walked out, leaving them stunned. Her parents were livid. They called her every name in the book, accusing her of betraying them, of turning her back on everything they'd done for her. But she didn't look back. We went home that night, and it was like a weight had been lifted. For the first time in months, it felt like we were on the same team again. But her parents didn't give up. They tried everything to get her back, calling, sending letters, using other family members to guilt her. They even sent a few gifts for our child, hoping we'd let them back in. But we held our ground, and over time, they backed off. Months passed, and we learned that they'd actually gone ahead and tried to set up the business with them on their own. They didn't even bother hiding it. They wanted us to know they'd moved on. They went out of their way to make it look like this huge success, sending photos to extended family, talking about how proud they were of this new venture. They were clearly trying to rub it in, make us feel like we'd made some kind of huge mistake by not being part of it. I'll admit, it stung. It was like they were taunting us, daring us to regret our decision. But something unexpected happened. After a few months, word got back to us that the business wasn't doing as well as they were claiming. Apparently, they'd overestimated M's success, and he'd gotten himself into a mess financially. It turned out he wasn't as successful as her parents had led everyone to believe. He was deeply in debt and barely holding things together. The new venture was struggling to stay afloat, and they'd started cutting corners, even trying to pull in people they'd once snubbed to help keep the place running. Then, her parents came crawling back to her. They didn't admit it directly, but their tone had completely changed. They started calling, asking how we were doing, how our child was, hinting that they wanted to repair the relationship. They tried to appeal to her sense of family again, talking about how much they missed her, how proud they were of her as a mother. They tried every tactic in the book to get her to open up again. One day, they showed up at our door unannounced. It was her father, holding a box of old photos and mementos from her childhood, looking as contrite as he could manage. He talked about all the good times they'd had and how he didn't want petty misunderstandings to come between us. It was manipulative, no question, but I could see my wife's resolve wavering as he spoke. This was her family, after all, and no matter what they'd done, I knew she still had a soft spot for them. But I wasn't about to let them manipulate her again. So I took her aside and told her to really think about what they'd done. I reminded her of all the ways they'd tried to undermine us, how they'd pushed her towards M, and how they'd only come back now that their perfect plan had fallen apart. She looked at me, and I could see the pain and realization in her eyes. She understood that they hadn't changed. They were only coming back because they needed something from her. She went back to the door, looked her father in the eye, and told him that if they truly wanted to be part of our lives, they'd have to show it with actions, not empty words. She told him that they'd have to respect the boundaries we'd set, and that there'd be no more talk about M, the old business, or any of their legacy plans. If they couldn't do that, she said, then we were better off keeping our distance. Her father looked taken aback, like he couldn't believe his own daughter was standing up to him. He stammered a few excuses, but she didn't waver. She told him that we weren't interested in playing their games anymore, that we had a life of our own and we were done letting them interfere. Her father left that day, but not before leaving one last parting shot, saying that she'd regret turning her back on family. It was a blow, but we both knew it was for the best. The weight that had been hanging over us finally lifted, and my wife, for the first time in her life, was free from their influence. I could see the difference in her immediately. She became more confident, more herself. She wasn't constantly second-guessing her decisions or looking over her shoulder, wondering if she was disappointing them. She was finally able to focus on our family, on our life together, without the shadow of her parents hanging over her. As for her parents, they tried a few more times to get back into our lives, but we kept our distance. They'd call occasionally, trying to test the waters, but we never let them get too close. Over time, they seemed to accept it, though I doubt they ever truly understood why we made the choices we did. They probably still see us as the ungrateful ones, the ones who turned our backs on family. But to me, family isn't just about blood. It's about respect, trust, and understanding. It's about building a life together, based on mutual support, not manipulation and control. My wife and I learned that the hard way, but we came out of it stronger, more united than ever. Now, we have a family built on real love and respect, a family that no one else has a say in. So, to anyone out there dealing with family members who can't respect your boundaries, stand your ground. Sometimes, the people closest to us are the ones who hurt us the most. But if you know your worth, if you stand by those who truly value you, you'll come out on the other side, stronger than ever. And hey, if this story hits close to home, hit that subscribe button. You never know what kind of family drama we might need to vent about next.